Hello there, I'm Battleields, and around about 8 years ago, I played this beta for this game, and that game was called Bad Company 2. I've never jumped straight into a commentary like this. This is crazy. It's story time with Battleields. Yeah, around about 8 years ago, I played a beta for a game that was called Bad Company 2, and I'd heard all about it, and it was supposed to be this COD killer, because Modern Warfare 2 was the hotness of the time, and it was supposed to be this big COD killer, this huge game, and I saw the gameplay for it and everything, and I downloaded the beta, and I remember this snow map, and it was rush mode, and I'd never seen rush mode before, and these huge conflicts and stuff like that, and the gameplay was so tight and great, and I fell in love with that beta. It was fantastic. And then I got the full game, and it was even better. I mean, obviously it would be even better. It had more maps and guns and everything, but it was so great. And Bad Company 2 was such a phenomenal game, and that was when my love for Battlefield games blossomed. Where it came from, where it erupted from, like some sort of large erecting penis. Erecting Penis is going to be the title of my first biography. But yeah, so I fell in love with Bad Company 2, and after that, they announced and revealed Battlefield 3 and stuff like that, and I got really into that, and I got into... I understood that they had to change things. They had to add things like prone and things like that to kind of keep up to date with the modern day, because Bad Company 2 had no proning or any of these kind of, Call of Duty-esque features. And that was great. Battlefield 4 didn't really innovate too much, so I wasn't really as into that. And then Battlefield 1 came along. And I was so excited for this game. I even did a video where, I talked about how in love with this game I was. But as you're going to see in this gameplay, I'm terrible. I think the scientific word for what I am is big cow semen, because I am bad at this game, and you can tell in this gameplay, but I wanted to use it because it's very sort of representative of the issues with this game. And the issue with this game is that everything was so polished, so beautiful, so just everything flowed and worked so well, but all of the details just didn't work out for me, for lack of a better term. Like, for me, I wanted this to be my new game. I wanted this to be my new obsession. But where Halo 5 was so alluring to me, everything was kind of so addictive because everything worked. Everything was so precise and methodical, and it was great. But for this, like, there's no red dot sights, and so I couldn't use assault rifles because the maps are so huge. So I had to use these single fire weapons. And also, these single fire weapons were all I was allowed as a medic. And I always have to play as a medic in Battlefield games because it's my favorite thing to do. So I had to learn how to use this. But I played this game last night to get this gameplay, and I hadn't played it for around about 9 months. And the moral of the story is that Battlefield has such a huge learning curve, and it takes so long to get to know it and get used to it. And for this, it's not pick up and play. And I just got so bored with it. I think the problem with this game is I got so bored of running around and looking for things to shoot and then getting shot from behind from a big tank or something. And that just didn't seem to happen as much in other Battlefield games. Which is why when they announced Battlefield 5, I was initially excited that they would bring it back to the sort of Battlefield 3/4 times. No jetpacks or rockets, please. Actually, yes, please, rockets. I guess I meant rocket butts, because rocket butts fly in the air and then everybody's doing some crazy dance. And, I don't want robots and stuff like that, but it did seem as though maybe they were going back to the 3/4 era. And they didn't. And it went back to World War II. So that was my immediate issue with it, is that, yes, we would get an incredible, another incredible game, but it's going to be set in the past again. But then I realized that with World War II, we have red dot sights in Call of Duty World War II. There were red dot sights in World War II, and everything kind of maybe pushing it to the following war would have brought in some of those modern nuances to make it more enjoyable. And then the reveal happened, and I watched it. So I've become so negative on this channel, so cynical, so downtrodden and downbeat, but unfortunately, with the gaming ecosphere as the way it is, I have to be. This is almost a part 2 to last week's conversation, where I talked about how gaming has become so money focused, and there's no attention to how can we creatively push things forward and do things that are interesting. And instead, but the question has become, how can we push things forward and make as much money as possible out of pushing things forward? And if we have to, maybe we should push things backward. And the whole reason I gave you that story about Bad Company 2 is because we are at a point now when Bad Company 2 came out, it was so innovative. If you played Bad Company 1 and then 2, you'd be like, this is crazy, dude. This is madness. And all of those amazing things that they added, they added rush mode and they did all of these interesting things, happened because of this creative license that they had to do what they wanted to do. Now we have the Battlefield 5 launch. And my biggest issue with the Battlefield 5 launch is that this is not what we're seeing. There are little tiny adjustments here and there that everyone keeps saying, don't worry about the game because they've changed these tiny little things. I don't care about tiny little things. I want the jump from Bad Company 2 to Bad Company 1 to Bad Company 2. I want something radical, something amazing, and this hasn't happened. But my biggest issue is with the way the fucking thing looks. It's just... Bad Company 2 and Bad Company 1 were comedic games, but they still gave you a grounded kind of realistic aesthetic. And they've thrown that out of the window with 5, it seems. Everything is so over the top. The intro was pulled straight from the first 5 minutes of Age of Ultron. Everything's just one take and everyone's jumping over shit and doing backflips and somersaults. And, it's just... Why? This isn't tonally Battlefield. Battlefield always had the advantage of, at the start of the commentary I talked about how it was coined the COD killer. And that's because what Battlefield did was what Call of Duty didn't do. And that's what made it rise to success, When Call of Duty were doing jetpacks and robots, Battlefield were bringing us back to the World War times, to something new, something we haven't had in a while. So now... I'm so disappointed. I can't even bring myself to say this. So disappointed because they're following the trend. They're not doing what they want to do. They're not setting out and making a game that's a trendsetter, not a trend follower. Unfortunately, and it's maybe difficult for people to admit, but let's be honest, we know why it's so cartoony and so animated. We're all well aware of why it's so animated, because that's the tone of 2018. And where does that tone stem from? It's so disappointing to me that tonally Battlefield 5 is, let's be honest, I have to say this, is just inspired by Fortnite. All of these crazy, wild things that are going on are inspired by Fortnite. This colourful aesthetic and not gritty aesthetic is Fortnite. Action, Fortnite is so unfortunate to me. Because you may like Fortnite or not, and one day I will have a conversation about it. You may or may not like it, but you have to admit that it doesn't have a place in the Battlefield universe. We have games that should cater to things. We have The Witcher 3, which is an RPG. We have, racing games that do racing. Halo is kind of the sci-fi shooter, or at least was before Call of Duty tried to take its place. And we have different games that cater to different things. Battlefield was the more kind of grounded, tactical, maybe not realistic, but more realistic than others, multiplayer gaming experience. And it's taken on the trend. And they are going to have a Battle Royale mode. If you look on DICE's Twitter or Battlefield's Twitter, they have been talking about implementing one. And it's just... I'm so disappointed by that. It just seems as though the game that set the trends and did what they wanted to do is falling down the route of just doing what's trendy at the time, and that will be its downfall. But a quick side note, I do want to say on the other side, to the positive, or to the negative rather, the people who are complaining about female protagonists and the robot arm and stuff like that, shut the fuck up. Please, just shut up. It's all I see. There is so much more to focus on, so much more to talk about with this game. And people are talking about the female character. It is so obviously that they're trying to show off their new customization stuff. That's why they gave her a robot arm. That's why they use a female character. They use these things because they have new customization, and these things show off that new customization. If you have a squad full of men and you show one woman, people go, oh, there's a woman there. Things are different. You can do different things. You give her a robot arm, people have an extension to that. Shut the fuck up. Just stop. It's not important. It doesn't matter. This isn't a realistic video game. People have been arguing so much that, oh, it's the realistic shooter. It's not a realistic shooter. There's no such thing as a realistic multiplayer shooter. It doesn't exist. Oh my gosh, shut up. It doesn't matter. It's still going to play the same.